Hello everyone. Today I'm going to tell you about a chilling case that took place in South Korea, a brutal murder of a mother and her young daughter in their own home. The husband had a seemingly solid alibi, yet for a long time, this case remained shrouded in controversy, particularly regarding the exact time of the victims' deaths. Often referred to as the Korean Simpson case, or the dentist mother and daughter murder case. It's a story that continues to captivate and divide opinions to this day. The events unfolded in Seoul, within the Han River Basin in the northwestern part of South Korea. More specifically, it happened in the U District, located in the far northwest of Seoul, a bustling transportation hub connecting Seoul, Noryeongjan, and Paju. Our main characters are Choi Sway, a 31-year-old professional dentist, and her husband, Du-heng, a 33-year-old plastic surgeon. The couple married in 1989 and, shortly after, opened a dental clinic together. Choi Sway worked at the family-run practice, which thrived, ensuring the couple never had to worry about financial struggles. They enjoyed a comfortable, prosperous life. In 1993, they welcomed a daughter, whom they named Lee Hwa-jong, and the family of three settled into apartment 708 on the 7th floor of a building in Kwangdong, Seoul. Let's take a quick look at the layout of their apartment. You enter through the front door into a small foyer. To the left is a utility room, followed by the kitchen, with the living room right next to it. On the right side of the hallway, there's a second bedroom, usually unoccupied, then a bathroom, and finally the master bedroom, where the couple and their daughter slept each night. By 1995, after 6 years of marriage, their daughter was 2 years old. At that time, Lee Du-heng was securing a loan to build his own private cosmetic surgery hospital, preparing for its grand opening. Their lives and careers seemed promising, with a bright future ahead. But then, an unexpected tragedy struck, shattering their idyllic existence. Let's rewind to June 12, 1995. It was a Monday morning when a plume of white smoke suddenly rose from an apartment in Kwangdong. The building's security guard noticed it and rushed to investigate. He traced the smoke to apartment 708 on the 7th floor. He banged on the door, but there was no answer. It was locked from the inside, and he couldn't get in. Suspecting a fire, he immediately called the fire department. 10 minutes later, firefighters arrived on the scene. As they entered apartment 708, they found flames raging in the master bedroom. The wardrobe in the center of the room was ablaze. Clothes inside were charred black, the bed sheets nearby were scorched, and the wallpaper had peeled off, reduced to ashes. The firefighters quickly extinguished the fire and began checking the rest of the apartment for other hazards. One firefighter entered the bathroom to assess the situation and froze in horror. Inside the bathtub, filled with water, were a woman and a young girl, both dead. The sight was devastating. The firefighter immediately contacted the police. When the sirens blared and officers arrived, they sealed off the area and launched an investigation. The woman was identified as Choi Sway, 31 years old, and the child was her 2-year-old daughter, Lee Hwa-jong. Choi Sway was found face down in the water-filled tub. Her upper body was bare, with only a pair of underwear pulled down her knees. There were ligature marks on her neck, clear signs of strangulation, and minor scratches on her arms. She was still wearing contact lenses. Her daughter, Lee Hwa-jong, lay on her back in the tub, dressed in a short-sleeved shirt and a diaper. She, too, bore marks of strangulation around her neck, though no other significant injuries were visible. Forensic examination confirmed neither victim had been sexually assaulted. The cause of death for both was asphyxiation, a clear case of murder. The police conducted a thorough sweep of the crime scene. In the kitchen sink, they found unwashed dishes and utensils. A baby bottle sat on the dining table, and Choi Sway's eyeglasses rested on the dresser. Her purse, containing 518,000 won, equivalent to about $450 at the time, was in the master bedroom. The front door was locked from the inside, and the windows showed no signs of tampering. There were no indications of a break-in or a struggle. Besides the fingerprints of the family of three, no other prints were found, and no murder weapon from outside the home was discovered. From the outside, there were two possible routes to apartment 708. The first required passing the security guard station, but the guard on duty that day reported no strangers entering or leaving the building. The second was an emergency exit on the right side of the first floor, but it was blocked by steel netting and a tightly locked door, inaccessible to outsiders. As the investigation unfolded, Du-heng, Choi Sui's husband, returned home after hearing the tragic news. Devastated, he collapsed in grief. Once he regained composure, the police questioned him about his whereabouts that day. He explained, "Today was the official opening of my private hospital. I had breakfast with my wife and daughter at 7 a.m., then left for the hospital alone. Everything seemed fine when I left. I arrived at the hospital by 8 a.m. for the opening ceremony. Plenty of people were there. They can vouch for me. The distance between the apartment and the hospital takes about an hour to travel." The security guard confirmed seeing Du-heng leave at 7 a.m., aligning with his statement. Nothing valuable, money or otherwise, was missing from the apartment, and there were no signs of forced entry. The police theorized that the victims were killed in the master bedroom. Afterward, the killer partially undressed Choi Sui to stage the scene as a possible sexual assault gone wrong, then dragged both bodies to the bathtub. The fire in the bedroom was likely set to destroy evidence. The locked door suggested an attempt to delay discovery. Given the lack of external entry, the police believe the perpetrator was someone familiar with the family, someone who wouldn't raise suspicion. They began investigating Choi Sui's personal relationships. A colleague of Choi Sui revealed she'd been having an affair with an interior designer. The police tracked him down, but he had a solid alibi for the time of the murders and was temporarily ruled out as a suspect. Oddly, he left South Korea shortly after and disappeared, his whereabouts unknown. In Choi Sui's diary, police found an entry. "I thought of him while my husband and I were in bed together." It likely referred to her lover, the designer. This led investigators to suspect Du-heng might have known about the affair and, in a fit of rage, killed his wife and daughter. He had a clear motive, but did he do it? The key lay in determining the precise time of death. Forensic experts examined the bodies. By 11:30 a.m. on June 12th, both victims showed livor mortis, post-mortem lividity, where blood settles in the body after circulation stops, creating dark patches. For Choi Sui, found face down, these marks were prominent on her front, including scratches on her right thigh. This suggested she died 6 to 8 hours before the autopsy, placing her time of death between 3:30 a.m. and 5:30 a.m. rigor mortis. The stiffening of muscles after death had set in her fingers, indicating death occurred 6 to 12 hours prior, between 11:30 p.m. on June 11th and 5:30 a.m. on June 12th. Her stomach contained 480 grams of undigested food, seaweed soup, rice, cabbage, eaten the previous night, suggesting death between 11:30 p.m. and 4:08 a.m. Combining these findings, the coroner concluded Choi Sui died before 7 a.m., when Du-heng was still at home, giving him the opportunity to commit the crime. The police brought Du-heng in for questioning. He denied knowing about the affair, claiming he'd met the designer a month earlier, but assumed he was just a friend of his wife's. In his gym bag, they found a note listing movie titles and video rental stores, including Single White Female, a 1992 American thriller about a woman who kills a man and leaves him in a bathtub, eerily similar to the crime scene. Du-heng insisted he'd never watched it. However, records from a rental shop showed he'd rented it in May 1994, over a year before the murders, and returned it after 5 days. He was a frequent renter, and 8 months later, he rented it again from another store, keeping it for an extended period. The police suspected he studied the film to plan the perfect crime, though he maintained he'd never seen it. Further digging revealed a strained relationship with his mother-in-law, marked by frequent arguments. Du-heng was introverted and rarely fought back, possibly bottling up resentment. On his right arm, police found 3 crescent-shaped marks, theorizing Choi Sui scratched him while struggling as he strangled her from behind. He denied this, admitting tension with his mother-in-law, but insisting it wasn't severe. He claimed the marks came after the murders. When police barred him from the apartment, he'd hit the wall and grabbed his arm in frustration. Asked what he ate that morning, he said bean sprout soup, but no traces were found in Choi Sui's stomach, casting doubt on his story. He volunteered for a polygraph test, but failed, according to experts. 4 days later, on June 16th, police revisited the scene. A curtain had fallen from the balcony, attached to a cord with 5 segments, each less than 20 centimeters apart. Lab tests revealed cuts and burn marks on it, hinting it might be the murder weapon. In the kitchen, clean dishes suggested Choi Sui hadn't washed the breakfast dishes yet, a departure from her habit of washing them at night. 2 baby bottles were found, one empty, the other half full. Choi Sui's mother said her granddaughter drank half a bottle every few hours, a routine unchanged since infancy. 8 months later, in February 1996, the case went to trial. Prosecutors presented the autopsy, pinning the deaths before 7 a.m., when Du-heng was home, and cited his failed polygraph. The court found him guilty of premeditated murder and sentenced him to death. He denied the charges and appealed. In September 1996, a second trial began. His defense, led by skilled attorney Kim Hong-tae, argued the deaths occurred after 7 a.m., when Du-heng had left. They enlisted Swiss forensic expert Thomas Karras to challenge the prosecution's timeline. Thomas noted inconsistencies. Choi Sui's underwear was pulled down, possibly by force, yet the prosecution's autopsy ignored this. He argued water temperature in the tub, unexamined by prosecutors, could accelerate lividity and rigor, skewing the timeline. Choi Sui ate breakfast at 7 a.m., and her contact lenses, worn only during the day, suggested a daytime murder. A fire simulation showed smoke appeared 10 minutes after ignition, placing the arson between 8:25 a.m. and 8:35 a.m. When Du-heng was at his hospital opening, alibi intact. The defense disputed the prosecution's motive, jealousy over an affair Du-heng allegedly didn't know about, and questioned why he'd kill his daughter. Neighbors reported no arguments from apartment 708 that night, and the curtain cord's marks didn't match Choi Sui's neck wounds. A third entry route, an unguarded disability access path, suggested an outsider could have entered undetected. The lower court overturned the conviction, declaring Du-heng not guilty. Public outrage followed. Many believed he was guilty. In November 1998, the Supreme Court reversed the acquittal, ordering a retrial. After years of legal battles, in February 2003, the Supreme Court ruled the evidence insufficient to convict, citing flawed forensic analysis and the possibility of a third party. Du-heng was acquitted again, exposing weaknesses in South Korea's forensic system and sparking reforms. The case remains unsolved, dubbed the Korean Simpson case for its twists and divided opinions. Some see Du-heng as a cunning killer who used his medical knowledge and rented films to craft a perfect crime, possibly bribing his way to freedom. Others, like Kim Hong-tae, insist he's innocent, a broken man who fought for justice. Du-heng retreated from public life, haunted by trauma, hoping the real killer is caught. From a criminal psychology perspective, this case is a puzzle. If Du-heng is guilty, his calm demeanor, detailed alibi, and introversion suggest a calculating psychopath, masking rage behind a quiet facade. The film rentals and forensic discrepancies could indicate premeditation. Yet, the lack of direct evidence and the third entry route support an alternative, an unknown intruder with a personal grudge, exploiting the family's routines. The truth remains elusive, buried in a web of science, emotion, and doubt. What do you think? Who's the real killer? Share your thoughts below. Until next time, goodbye.